Hello, friends, and welcome to Bible study. Late though it may be, we always get it done. We're doing all of chapter 5, which is verses 1 through 33. So let's jump in. This is Ephesians. We're in the NIV, Ephesians chapter 5, because I didn't actually say that. Be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. So, Jesus absorbed all of the sins everywhere. All of the sins in existence. Past, present, future, all of it. That's what he did when he did this. So Paul is like, in exchange for that heavy, heavy burden he took on, love each other, because he said love one another. That's what he said. But among you, there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality. Here we go. Now we've got here. Now we're doing with the foundation of what religion does. And that is start establishing rules for conduct and behavior to show God how you love him. Because that's what every religion really is a bunch of arguments about how we show God love and obedience based upon our outward behavior to the world. Or any kind of impurity or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be any obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking. So, for clarification, the Apostle Paul says, no locker room jokes. No off-color commentary. This is how we start getting into how can you tell a Christian from not a Christian? One who reads the Bible from the one who does lip service. If you want to make someone lesser than you, then you're doing lip service. No superiority. No foolish talk. Not, I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke? Nope, none of that. You're not allowed to do any of that. No coarse joking, which are out of place. Like if you wouldn't do it in church, you're not supposed to do it in your everyday life, essentially. But rather thanksgiving, being grateful for life. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a man is an idolater. They're worshiping the ways of the world, walking by desire, not by faith, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ or of God. You can't get into heaven as long as you act that way. That's what he's saying. Christ will reject you because Paul has decided. Let no one deceive you with empty words, because of such things God's wrath comes to those who are disobedient. There is no religion that if you start skating around looking for the loopholes and how you can still treat people crappy, that also lets you into religion. There's no amount of I'm sorries without changed behavior. It's called penance. You can't just say I'm sorry. You actively have to try to resist whatever is out of compliance with the love vibration. That's how I'm going to word it. If you wouldn't want it done to you. I mean, it's basics. I know it seems like, what? No, it's kindergarten. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Treat others how you would like to be treated. That's kindergarten. If you're a grown-up walking around in the world, you should already know. If you want to act like a kindergartner, be prepared to be treated like a kindergartner. If you want to act like a grown-up, then nobody will treat you like a kindergartner. Isn't that an amazing thing? You get to decide, based upon how you interact with the world, the conduct you bring to the world, how the world will interact with you. And isn't that a blessing instead of it being somebody else's arbitrary decision? Therefore, Do not be partners with them. That means, no, you can't even hang out with your friends who do those things. They will encourage the worser nature of you, which will keep you out of heaven. Because if you act like that while you're around them, but not while you're around others, then what you are is a hypocrite. And being a hypocrite will keep you out of heaven. It's called lip service. That goes all the way back to the Old Testament. No lip service entry into heaven. You show it by how you walk it. For you were once in darkness, but now you are in the light of the Lord. Live as children of the light, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. And find out what pleases the Lord. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. If you're gonna come to the world and you're gonna go, well, snitches get stitches, to people who hurt others because they feel like it, then be prepared to have that attitude be what excludes you from heaven in the Apostle Paul's opinion. So, it was never allowed. Not even back at the very formation of the church itself was never allowed. For it is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible. For it is the light that makes everything visible. Don't think you can hide anything from God. God sees your every thought, feeling, intention, and you are manifesting, if you want to look at it in like the metaphysics terms, you are manifesting every second. Whether you're conscious or not, you're manifesting. You're always in a state of manifestation. So it's whatever you're projecting out into the world that you get back at you. What you reap, so shall you sow. What you give your attention is what grows. For this is why it is said, wake up, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Do not be committed to going to hell. Be committed to going to heaven. Be committed to being the best version of you that you can be so that you can get to heaven. Be very careful then how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise. And this is very true on every level. If you really look at it in a big overarching way, how we choose to live our life, we are choosing what ultimately kills us. That's really what it comes down to. Your daily patterns are what make your life successful or unsuccessful. We're not going to get healthy just by eating a salad one time and doing one workout. And we're not going to get unhealthy by eating McDonald's for dinner and feeling lazy and sitting on the couch watching TV. Both of those things are how committed you are to your daily healthy habits. It's one of the phrases I like to use. I need to come up with phrases for my own brain, for my cliff notes, so when I'm about to do something, because I like to move very quickly, so I got to have things where I've got to memorize to make me go, up. Is that a smart choice? Is that what you should be doing? Is that healthy? Is that really? How permissible is that right now? So I got to have something that stops me in my tracks, and that's not an easy thing to do. So I had to game my own brain, because my brain is neurodivergent in certain ways, so there's a way to game my brain, so I have better control of myself. Because self-control is what he's talking about here. Self-control is how we show God we love him. So, I had to come up with this. And with me, I had to. So, that was one of the things, is how we choose to live is how we choose to die. That's how we go about this. Because it's not a matter of whether or not our vessels are going to die. Our vessels die. We see it. And we know this. This is just an empirical fact. So if you eat crappy every day, don't be surprised when you end up with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. You made that choice every single time you put the food in your mouth. Now, I'm not telling you should or shouldn't do that. If you are willing to accept what that comes with, whenever you're making those choices, and that's a choice you make. And you do you, boo-boo. You live the best life that you can live, because you're not getting out of it alive. So it's just a matter of a choice. And I'm faced with this choice because I have, in addition to neurodivergence, I have a physical vessel, issues of things I was born with, where it's not a choice. This is how my choice is how I respond. Do I want to fight my doctors, or do I want to use what my doctors are telling me to have a better life? And how long am I willing to try this experiment before I decide to do something else, or to try to seek a second opinion, or to find another alternative, or, make the healthiest choice for me? Always be kind to future you. And that starts with that's the phrase, daily healthy choices is what builds a successful life. There isn't a hack. I get people asking me, I've accomplished a lot of things in the course of my life. And I get people, how did you do that? By having healthy daily patterns every day. How did you do that? By having the self-control to tell myself, this is my schedule. Now, I've got OCD. I need a schedule. I crave a schedule. So I used it to my advantage. And I did things slow and incremental, building upon each other until I have accomplished something. That's what I'm good at. It takes me longer to start when I'm starting a pattern, it takes me longer. But I will eventually find the efficiency hack that allows me to do that, incorporate it into everything, and handle something new. What I'm not good at is incorporating multiple new things. Then it breaks down. I can't do that. I can only have one at a time. Until I get good at that, it becomes part of the pattern, and then I can absorb something more. That for me means I got to have ways to slow down and see it, so I don't overwhelm myself. Now, I have triggers, and I know I do, and when those start getting, then we have to start, looking. But that still goes back to my first job is to know me better than anyone else. That way, the outside can't hack me. And that's very important. Not letting the devil in is very important. Making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is, not micromanaging the universe. Understanding what His will is. Everything is a test of my will to thy will. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. Speak to one another with the psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Sing and make music in your heart to the Lord. Oh, I love that. Always giving thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So he's talking about the basic tenets of not just outward behavior, but something we're going to get into a little bit more heavily in the next part here, because this one it's called wives and husbands. Now I'm going to read this, and I'm going to also inform you that there will be things that I agree with, things I disagree with, and I'll remind you that the Apostle Paul has never fallen in love, had never been married, never known heartbreak, never known sorrow, never knowing exactly how difficult what he's saying in here is, because of the basic premise of everything from where it must start. Because in order to do this, you have to really know what love is. Really know love. Not this outward surface, I only recognize love as love if I see it in these following ways that fit my ideal of some over-romanticized Hollywood movie. That crap falls apart in this parable. You have to get to the root. And if at that root you're not committed to being the best version that you can be, then this part becomes deadly for one half of our population. So that's why I take it very seriously. Because this part should not be followed unless, and I'm going to be gender specific here, I'm sorry, because he's using terms husband and wife, unless the masculine however you want to, view yourself there. Unless the masculine in this thing is not full of his own ego and is committed to being the best version that he can be and is going to focus on the happiness of his wife, his female, however you want to do that, his feminine, with the full intention of complete respect and love from his heart, i.e., if he doesn't view her as his equal in every way, this leads to abuse and should totally be ignored, because that is not the man or the masculine or whoever that is. Now, does that need to go back and forth? Yes, absolutely. The respect needs to go back and forth. The heavier burden in here, in the submission, is because, all right, let me read it. Husbands and wives, or wives and husbands. Verse 22, wives, submit to your husbands as the Lord. That right there is the problem. No. Now, I don't have a husband. My will to thy will is what gets me into heaven. Not my husband. Not my husband's soul. The wrong husband can corrupt my soul and keep me from heaven. But it doesn't matter how good he is. If I want to act raggedy, I'm not getting into heaven. It doesn't matter how good I am. If he wants to act raggedy, he's not getting into heaven. This is the premise that women's souls are incomplete and can't get into heaven on their own, and they need their husband to pull them up there. Because that is the mental and emotional state that Paul's society is in at the time he's writing this, for a matter of perspective. It needs to be adjusted. Because again, this is not Jesus telling us we have to do this. This is the Apostle Paul telling us we have to do this. And that's when we start getting into it. Remember, they're humans. And their opinion is their opinion. And you can't come in and go, I want to take all this, but then I don't want to get rid of all that. Oh, no, no, no. If you want women to submit to you as husbands and wives, you must get rid of, that means no porn. That means no lustful desires for another woman. That means your entire sexual focus on one person at the exclusion of all others, not even locker room talk, no strip clubs, none of it. Or you're not fulfilling your half, and you're not worthy of this part. Husband is a behavior. Wife is a behavior. It's an energy exchange between two people within a relationship that requires that they recognize each other as each other. Wives, submit to your husbands as the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so not the opinions of their own, to Jesus. No one in the church can be in their ego. So also, wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives. Love. Love doesn't mean abuse. It doesn't mean treat like they're an object. It doesn't mean a lot of things. None of that's love. If there is no respect, there is no love. If there's no equality, there's no love. And you can get people that want to argue with that. Wait a minute. Didn't we say that God shows us how he loves us because it's free will and he can't take it away? And that's why we got to go through hardships. And you can't take away someone else's free will and say you love them, because not even God does that. That's a basic tenet of Christianity. That's part of a form of an argument. So it's a behavior, not just a word. You can't abuse somebody and love them, no matter what side of any equation you're on. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. You have to be willing to sacrifice for your wife, or you're not acting as Christ sacrificed, because he sacrificed up to his life, including his life. Not death. No, I'm sorry. There's a limitation. No. Unlimited sacrifice. to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. Blameless. Husbands, if you want your wives to submit to you unconditionally, understand that everything that happens in your marriage is then entirely your fault, because she's blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. You wouldn't punch yourself in the face, right? So then you can't punch her in the face. I'm saying this like this way because this particular part is used by abusers as a way, or people sometimes in abusive churches, abusive pastors. I mean, any place where you're going to get positions of power, you're going to get people who want to abuse those positions of power. And the church is absolutely no exclusion. We see it rapid, right? People usually leave churches because they have problems with pastors who abuse. That's really what whether they're physically doing it, they're spiritually doing it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All of it is the same. All forms of abuse is equally harmful. And it's the same. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated his own body. No, that's not true though, right? Your relationship with yourself is going to affect your marriage. If you hate you, your marriage is going to have problems. But he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does the church. So now we have even more of a standard of a behavior. Right? Because again, that's what religion does. It starts giving you behaviors that are expected. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. That's D, which is in Genesis 2:24. You know what that means? That means when you got to choose between who you're going to be loyal to, your family, including your mommy and your daddy, or your wife, the church expects you to choose your wife. If you're not willing to do that, you're not ready to be a husband, which according to the Apostle Paul really means you're not ready for sex. Because if you're not prepared to marry her, you shouldn't touch her. And if you even want to be in the church to be saved, you better give up all that sinful stuff. This is a profound mystery. But I'm talking about Christ and the church, so boom, right out of it, because he doesn't really know what's going on there. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and a wife must respect her husband. So that's the end of that. Now, obviously, you've gotten to see where I have problems for that. And I say it that way because of what I've seen, because of what I have experienced. And I mean, there's a reason why I'm no longer married. And what I have seen, it is indeed, pastors who preach that way are indeed reasons that I've walked away from the churches and all kinds of other things. And then I went and became a minister myself because no, that's my answer. Just no. There's nothing about any of that kind of behavior or anything that we want to say the how, boys club and this, that, and the other. And I'm in an industry where when I make my money, the boys club still exists. So nobody's going to get me to believe that it's done. I mean, the Me Too movement happened for a reason. You want that kind of thing from a wife, from a woman? You got to be the kind of man they're describing. It doesn't matter what the world tells you can do. If you're not ready to walk away from all forms of any drinking, sex, or anything else like that, and it's all just this one woman for the rest of time, not even in your mind, not in your heart, then you can ask for it. Because then you're holding up your end of the bargain. And if you're not willing to, then you need to work on yourself and heal yourself, because now you know both sides of that equation now know what you're supposed to be healing towards. And if you say you're never going to do this, then you can never ask for that. You're not willing to do the work, don't expect them to. That's just dangerous. It's dangerous to give that kind of trust to someone who isn't willing to go forward with the actions to prove that they're worthy of that trust, which is supposed to be part of the courting thing. So it's not supposed to be something that you're doing after you're married. So basically, if you're a guy, here's what I'd recommend. The reality of this says you're not supposed to want a bachelor party. If you want a bachelor party, you're not ready to get married. You're not ready for sex. Because everything they're describing there that you can't have is essentially the contents of a bachelor party. If you need that one last hurrah, then you're not ready to get married. Because you're not ready to be committed. Because that is being fully committed. On either side, that is being fully committed to your spouse. But that is a place that is earned and is meant to be earned before the engagement happens. So if you're not ready to give it up before you're ready to give her a ring, then you're not ready to give anybody a ring. And you need to go work on you. Or you can disagree with the Apostle Paul, and that means you have to disregard the other side of that, of what you're expecting from the other person in the equation. If you're willing to get rid of, hey, she doesn't need to blindly obey me. We could just be two people trying to figure it out together. Okay, that works too. I mean, it's your relationship. I'm not in it with you. So, whatever you two decide. But for the women out there, if he's not willing to give all that up before you even get to the engagement, do not blindly do whatever he says. He hasn't earned it. Trust is earned. Once it's broken, it becomes real hard to get it back. So there isn't room for even one infraction if you're going to play the other side of that equation hard, for either side. If he gives up all of that, then you do have to, respect him right back. You can't be trying to control the environment any more than he can. What I recommend is that both people just respect each other and treat each other with it. I think those are ideals. And I think due to the human condition, we got a long way to go in society, because society is still absolutely selling sex. And it's going to go that way until, as society, we decide, no, we don't want to do that anymore. So it's a good thing that our sun's not about to go supernova anytime soon. And we got a lot of time to figure this out, because, do we need it.